Welcome back. You're still watching the Midday View here on eNCA. While the 14-day deadline for political parties to form coalition government is closing in, many parties failed to gain an outright majority in the local government elections, leading to hung councils. Some parties have joined hands, while others have made it clear they won't work with certain parties. So how could sharing power affect service delivery? To discuss this, I'm joined by local government expert Miyelani Holeni. Thank you very much, Mr. Holeni, for your time. Now, should the people of Gauteng, residents and the electorate here in this province be concerned that up until this day, we don't know who might take over in these metros?
Thank you, Masioko, and good afternoon to the listeners. Naturally, the timelines for setting up of councils and making sure that municipalities are functional is as stipulated. So as we have exercised, and I'm counting myself as part of the voters, we would expect that there would be a council formed, there would be a local government formed, such that the affairs of a municipality can be carried out. So that would obviously cause concern if it's not known how that government locally is going to be constituted and how it's going to discharge its duties. And of course, there will be an impact in many areas of a municipality if a council doesn't sit because of the dependency on the executive, which is the ultimate decision-making structure of council or within a municipality being council.
Now, of course, you know, we've seen how a coalition, especially in a metro such as the city of Tshwane, for instance, really didn't work. It almost collapsed the capital. We've seen a change of the mayor in that city so many times. There was just no stability. Could we see the electorate and residents being, you know, left out again?
Well, in this case, I think this is where, for what it's the stage that we are at, we as, or at least the voters out there, should be exercising some form of, their voices to be heard, because voting is one aspect. The other part to it is that the residents speak through their votes. They can also speak through the ward councillors, of which we know that the ward councillors are already in place. And that is one way of also airing their voices, such that, you know, their voices are heard and their will is heard. The other option is, obviously, if the councils don't get to sit, is that they would have to go back into elections, which is by-elections, and that would also perhaps produce a different outcome. That would be another way that the voter can speak or at least exercise their voice, such that eventually there is a sitting of a municipality and there's a formation of a council.
Mr. Holeni, I guess why I'm asking whether the electorate or the residents would be left out again is because we're hearing, I mean, we're not part of the negotiations, so we don't really know what's being put on the table. But in terms of what we've heard in the media and from different political parties, either saying they won't work with each other, or one political party saying, let us lead in this particular metro and then we'll let you come in on that. You know, it's all become sort of like a power dynamic between these political parties. And I'm sure the electorate is worried about service delivery for them.
Absolutely, and they should be. I also refer as well to the fact that, yes, there is a risk that the residents may be left behind. However, in coalitions, what we have seen, and there's actually no guidelines currently that determine how coalitions should work. However, there's a paper that was recently released by the Dala Omar Institute of Constitutional Affairs, which seeks to give some kind of guidance. And part of the guidance is around transparency. And I think as residents, or all the residents, should expect that there should be transparency in whatever the coalition agreements that are entered into. And those coalition agreements is about governance. It's not about anything else. It's not about administration. It's about governance. But the other side to it is that municipalities, or at least the officials within municipalities, are the ones that are given the powers to discharge the duties of a municipality. So that would obviously mean that for other decisions that require council, at least the officials would be able to function and be able to discharge their duties. So, of course, there is that risk of residents being left behind, but at least we can take solace in the fact that local government or municipalities is an entire system and has a value chain that would ensure that it functions despite the fact that council doesn't sit. But it will not function for too long, which is where, for instance, if there is no sitting of council, or at least there's one sitting of council, it would then allow, for instance, the MEC for local government to be able to exercise Section 139 of the Constitution to at least bring back an administrative format to the municipality.
Now, things seemed very simple in KZN, but those 21 hung municipalities, the ANC and IFP, talking it out and saying wherever we led, we will govern, and wherever you led, you will govern, but we'll form a coalition with you. Could it be that simple, at least for the highly contested metros this side?
I think the simplicity of it could even boil down to that. But what is in the nexus of what must be considered is the service delivery aspect, because when voters vote for particular political parties, they are voting based on the manifesto. They are voting based on what is going to be delivered or has been promised by the political parties. Perhaps to bring back another formula, or to bring in another formula that should be considered, is, for instance, what are the similarities of what was contained in the manifesto of each of the political parties, and how do they pertain to delivering those services within there. So in this case, we understand that the contestations is always around who takes what position. But let's understand the makeup of council, that there's always the executive, there's also the Section 79 committees, there are the Section 80 committees, there's the mayoral committees. So there are a number of aspects in which governance can be discharged. Of course, we understand that in an executive municipality where the mayor is executive, the power structures are different to where the mayor is not an executive. But in this case, there are many ways in which municipalities are governed. They are also governed through the ward system, which is where the local councillors that have been elected as ward councillors are able to exercise the governance. In metros, for instance, it may be another formula that allows for sub-councils to be formed to govern the municipality. So really, it's not only about who leads in terms of executive mayor, it's about the agenda that must ultimately, or the manifestos or the deliveries that must ultimately accrue to the people who voted for those political parties. And that can be determined with regards to how the other committees and the portfolio committees are also structured, so that there is accountability.
All right. Thank you so much for your time here on eNCA and for the insight. That was local government expert Miyelani Holeni weighing in on coalition governments and how they could impact service delivery.